I called you our very own Bill Gates, both IT innovator and philanthropist in terms of coming up with new learning solutions. Just talk to us about what can be done with a mobile phone.
Well, I think in Africa, a mobile phone becomes a multi-purpose device, and the first time that people would use the internet would be from their mobile handset. It just makes sense because there's 15 mobile phones compared to maybe one fixed line in Africa, simply because of the scattered environment and the geography that you have to cover from a telecoms infrastructure perspective. Right. Phones are also very affordable in Africa, and in many countries what's very important is to, for example, have features like a torch, because electricity infrastructure is so poor, and the ability to learn from mobile is certainly allowing us to bridge the digital divide and really create the ability for anybody to be able to learn. I've got a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old, and every single time they've got a school assignment, we Google everything. And if you could have everything available on your mobile handset, would make life a lot easier for you to be able to reach information.
Let's talk about new learning solutions or mobile learning, because we know that healthcare and education remain two of the weakest human development factors in Africa, and that's where we need the greatest input. Now, rural Africa in particular could benefit from this.
100%. So what's nice about the interactive learning environment that's available for mobile or on the internet is the fact that you can actually assess in real time what the knowledge is that's been attained by the person who's actually learning. The ability for you to make it very interactive and be able to get people to chat to each other in remote areas and really be able to make more of a collaborative learning environment, which is very, very exciting. There's features today in interactive learning that allows you to chat to peers around the world, to chat with your lecturer remotely, the ability for you to get information and be assessed in real time, and being able to see how well you're doing. So it's a very interactive way of learning, and any course could basically become available to anybody in a remote area.
Now, I hope most Africans are not like me. They don't just have a basic phone, but people don't have smartphones either because they're very, very expensive. And the general use of a mobile phone is communication, is SMS, and increasingly it's mobile banking transactions that use very basic SMS, MMS facilities. What sort of content in terms of data is needed in order to foster e-learning, and what are the costs?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing is the need for smartphones, and smartphones are growing worldwide. But there's estimate that currently it makes about 17% of all phones, but it will become 42%. And I think what's required is the ability to get low-cost smartphones in Africa, because as you rightfully said, most people will get their phone free with a service or very low-cost handsets, and the average revenue per user in Africa is fairly low, ranging from $1 to $15. So to be able to buy a phone like this, like the iPhone that has revolutionized the market at $400-500 is just unbelievable. It's not going to happen. So we've come up with a low-cost handset like this that's made in China from the same factory that Nokia makes handsets, and this phone is available for $60, which is obviously a lot more affordable. And then you are able to the need that you have is a minimum of internet connectivity to be able to get the information delivered to your phone via the internet. But there's a lot of very nice SMS-based solutions as well, which allow you to interact with content on the internet.
Let's just talk about the collaboration that needs to be done with the operators in terms of getting relevant new learning material to the schools, because it's wonderful to have a plethora of search engines, but in order for it to be relevant to the curriculum being taught at the schools, there needs to be something a little more structured.
Absolutely, and I think government, there's got to be a private-public partnership between government, the mobile network operators, and the people in the education sphere. And I think we're seeing more and more collaboration in that space, which is very encouraging. And we're seeing a lot of very powerful content being generated in multiple languages, which is also an issue in Africa. You need to cater for the French market in Franco-Africa, Portuguese in Mozambique, in English. It's much easier for people to learn in their own language. What needs to happen, I think, is the collaboration has got to be around getting the relevant content, making sure that it's available at the lowest common denominator, even on the low-cost handsets, as you were mentioning, with basic internet, and lowering the cost of access is really, really important. In Korea, for example, which used to be a third world country, government got behind lowering the cost of broadband, and today Korea is one of the top 10 countries in the world in terms of economies and education.
Now the operators have the solutions. the government has the responsibility, but where does the greatest weight bear in terms of implementation?
I think it's a combination of the industry. I think even a private enterprise, we're seeing a lot of corporate social investment being done in this space. In fact, the Queen of Jordan at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona in February this year made an appeal to all the mobile network operators to make a huge investment in mobile learning. She was quoting a figure of 72 million children in Africa not having education. And this is a huge issue that affects all of us, because at the end of the day, there were some figures mentioned at Uganda at the Digital Africa Summit a couple of weeks ago, that every 10% increase in connectivity or internet access actually has a 1.3% contribution to GDP. So if we can get more people to have access to information and have access to education, we can really solve a big problem in Africa, because that's what Africa needs. It doesn't need handouts, it needs
Let's talk about integrated solutions. We know that mobile phone access far outweighs internet penetration, but there's still a lot of work being done to try to get people connected and to try to improve on broadband, as we were talking earlier on. But we're talking something like 45% cell phone penetration versus 8% internet. So there's still a lot of catch-up work that needs to be done, but it's being done.
Absolutely. So what's happening is that I think the biggest emphasis from a mobile network operator is around data growth. We're seeing that actually from a commercial perspective, voice average revenue per user, ARPU, is declining simply because of competition, and we're moving towards the need to be able to provide the right data solution from a commercial perspective. There's also the corporate social responsibility of being able to contribute to your community and being able to make internet available at lower cost. So I think what needs to happen is that government needs to get behind lowering the cost of access and making content available for free. And I think collaboration between mobile network operators and government would yield to a solution.
Okay, now you've also participated in conferences and also in programs undertaken by the Ugandan government, the Nigerian government, and also work here in South Africa. Just comparatively speaking, where are we at?
I think that there's a long way to go. I mean, if we look at the e-learning industry globally, it's a $52 billion industry, but mobile learning only makes 1.5 billion out of that 52, which just shows that it's a very, very small percentage. And I think in Africa, the only solution to connect to the internet will be a mobile handset. Many people will not have access to the PC, so we need to see a big investment in lowering the cost of phones, as well as lowering the cost of access and the ability to reach the masses.